guys? Dave here again at the Blind Spot. Super excited to have two of my really close friends in the industry. Kevin Duff from Signature Transportation Group in Chicago. And then I got TJ Doyle from Lexington, Kentucky, Gold Shield. So I'm really happy to have you both. What's up, guys?
How we doing, Dave?
What's up? Another day in Coronaville. That's all I'm calling it.
Day 9,000, right?
Yeah, like it. I don't even know. Like I used to have a calendar behind me. You can see I have a flag of America.
Take it and lost count.
I just threw it away. It was a gift from the drivers and shit for my birthday. I'm like, I'm gonna throw it away. Don't want to know the date or time or anything like that. But hey, thanks for joining me. A little bit of history of us. Obviously we're part of the Next Gen group. And that's kind of how we met. Well, I met you guys. I don't know about your friendship prior to. One of the things that I learned from you guys kind of from the get-go was understanding the motor coach business, which prior to COVID-19 was actually ramping up to be a really good year. I remember when I first thought about buying a bus, I came to you guys and you guys like, just do it. I'm like, no, I'm scared. I don't want to do it. And I remember getting a text message from TJ says, Dave, if you buy one, you're going to buy two. I'm like, no, if I buy one, I'm sticking to one. And then not even 4 months later, I bought a second one. So thanks for putting me in a hole. I appreciate it, guys. You guys are awesome.
Hey, we're all in the same hole together. So
exactly. Yeah.
So Kev, give us a background for people who don't know you.
All right. So I'm 33 years old, been in the industry since I graduated college. So now 12 years in the business. Started before Uber and Lyft were really in the marketplace, so kind of saw it. What in Chicago we called it the shared ride program. So started my career at Windy City Limousine and Bus. Then in 2014 left with a group of partners to start Signature Transportation Group, and we really started much the same. Small vehicles and a few buses. And as we started seeing the marketplace change, we gravitated more towards that bus side. And I've always been of that mentality of the buses are where you make your money. And we had a lot of recession-proof business building up over the years. And, we were always about work-life balance. And I think that was really important. Families were really important to us. And we're all, since 2014, I think all of us have really started building our families together and in addition to the company. And we had a lot of recession-proof business. We didn't have a lot of pandemic-proof business like everyone else. But we're doing okay, and I think we've made some great decisions along the way. We're just trying to stay as patient as we can right now. So just plan is to stay the course for now and meet weekly with the team and make decisions a lot slower than we used to, just because we don't know what the future looks like. Whereas in the past, we always knew there was that goal at the end of the year.
What's your role over there, Kevin?
Oh, so I'm president here, so I really oversee the company as a whole with a couple partners, but really my focus is sales, marketing, advertising, and customer service. So my other partner Ebro really oversees the operation, and Sal and Janet Milazzo both also help oversee. Janet does everything on the financial side. So the four of us really run the company, and we have Matt Eberhardt, who's our general manager, so he runs the day-to-day operation as well.
Awesome. What about you, Tej?
So coming from Lexington, Kentucky, I'm not quite as young and handsome as Mr. Duff there, 38 years young. And parents started the company in 1982. We have expanded into Cincinnati, Indianapolis in the last 2 years as well. A little previous history. Spent 16 years in law enforcement, retired out 2 years ago. I've always worked in the company while owning other businesses along the way, barbershops, valet parking companies, real estate, and bought and sold a few businesses over the years. I left after retiring 2 years ago, even though I was already full-time in the company, to come on full-time and spend more time with my family, which I have two sons that are amazing and an awesome wife that puts up with me. Kind of like what Kev said, the bus business, when we've all talked about, was kind of the bread and butter. It was very recession-proof, but nothing could have planned for a pandemic.
Well, we're going to kind of start with that. Like I said in the beginning of this, you guys did help me a lot to understand the business and the bus business and how to kind of form that entity within my company. And you guys just talked, both of you guys said something about, being recession proof but not pandemic proof. Obviously, we can say that nobody knows how to deal with a pandemic, so we're still trying to figure out. But let's talk about the recession proof and why you guys think that the bus business was such a recession proof business in your guys' eye.
If you want to go first, or I can teach, but doesn't matter.
That doesn't matter. We're probably going to be along the same line, so have at it, and I'll piggyback anything that you don't cover.
So I'd like to explain to a lot of people now that ask how business is going, and I kind of relate it back to both 9/11 and 08-09 economic crisis. 9/11, a lot of people didn't fly anymore, so they were fearful of flying, which kind of hit corporate business pretty hard. But it didn't hit the weddings and bar mitzvahs, proms, sporting events. Everything went on in that terms. So buses were still moving, and in 08-09, people weren't taking black car service anymore because it was too over the top or too expensive. That didn't really stop the meetings and events. So buses were still shuttling people. Again, sporting events, universities were still moving people. And in Chicago specifically, there's a parking issue in a lot of these corporate areas. So that's where we found that niche for line runs, shuttling employees to their corporate campuses from remote lots, helping hospital systems with employee parking problems. And then colleges and universities, there's so many in this area, and especially, TJ knows with Indy and Cincinnati and being in that area, there's colleges moving every day. You have the frats and the sororities going to socials. I mean, you name it, there's a whole list of businesses or pieces of business that are recession proof, because again, even though there's a recession, people were still going to school and people were still playing sports. So that's why we always felt like our work was recession proof, because they'd still move, even though people may not fly as much or may not travel on the corporate side as much. So that's really where the buses were great. But now that it's really groups of people, that's where it was a game changer, not being able to be in a group of people.
What are your thoughts, Tej?
Yeah, I would agree with everything that Kev said right there. Universities is kind of the stronghold. Sports, there's never been a time in at least our time on Earth where, to my knowledge, that sports have completely just come to a halt. Universities always have traveled. When you look at the corporate sector, like Kev said, they still held meeting and events. But sports for us is huge. Even school trips, schools were still traveling for senior trips and everything like that. Even in these low years, 08, 07 that we spoke about, this is the first time that, you look at the beginning of this year, and I would say that anybody that is watching this, or for us three especially, we were probably on track to have our best year ever.
100%.
January, February, we were 85% sold out for the entire year on buses. 85%. I was farming bus work out, giving bus work to other people. Kev and I spoke often. A lot of other operators and us spoke, and we were helping one another out because the demand was, you couldn't supply it. The demand was way higher than the supply. And for March 15th to come along and you start to gradually see these setbacks, that was kind of your first eye opener of, wow, this isn't recession proof. This isn't pandemic proof.
Right. What are your guys' thoughts now? I mean, we're 3 months, 4 months into it. You've probably spoken to some of your clients, especially the colleges and stuff like that. What are you guys hearing out there?
Well, I think it's different
right now.
Go ahead.
Right now, colleges have booked their seasons. We've had 8 or 9 colleges that have reached out and booked their fall season. All their intentions are to play. Whether or not it's with fans or not, well, yet to be determined. You look at NASCAR last night, they had, maybe 10,000 fans there. That's a big step. You look at some of the professional soccer leagues. The Louisville Professional Soccer just had 10,000 people at their stadium last week for their home opener. So, you know, I think they're going to try to work fans into that equation, but at a 20 to 50% capacity. If college sports travel this fall, that's huge for the bus industry. It gets the buses back rolling. And then I think you'll see the corporate and meetings gradually start to come back after that. We were scheduled as early as next week to do a Fortune 500 company board meeting. They were going to use buses. Their offices just shut back down yesterday. So, you know, there was a little bit of light there at the end of the tunnel to where some corporate boards were trying to push through, and they want to meet in person. They're over their Zoom meetings and such. So I think as long as college sports travel, then I think you'll start to see that resurgence a little bit. Tour companies, they are dying to travel. You know, their clients want to go. The issues they're running into is the places they want to go are shutting down. Myrtle Beach, Charleston, other places that seemed like viable options instead of your New Yorks and Chicagos and DCs. Now those are hot spots, and now they're not willing to go. But we're just going to have to see what the climate brings.
Yeah. What do you think, Cut?
You know, much of the same. I think, you know, the concerning things are, you know, like the Big Ten and the Big East announcing now that fall sports will only be played in conference. You know, those non-conference games now being canceled, that hurts bus trips. You also have, you know, a concern on our levels. We do a lot of NAIA D3, D2 schools. We're not quite at that D1 point yet in terms of, you know, we were just so busy. We weren't able to take on the demand they presented. If the D1 schools end up not going back or not playing, then of course all these other divisions are going to follow suit, is our feeling. And we're also seeing a lot of associations really struggling, especially in Chicago. You have the Illinois Lodging and Hospitality or Hotel Association, in addition to the Illinois Restaurant Association. They're down to 1 or 2 people at these associations where a lot of these members are not paying their dues because they're shut down.
Right.
And these are the entities that were fighting for them. So now it's just becoming a cycle. In addition, what we might start seeing are these regional associations consolidating with others, becoming larger associations so that they can consolidate members to support each other. And again, the association meeting and event market was huge.
Mm-hmm.
What does that look like, you know, after this? And, you know, you start breaking it down as much as you can without overthinking it. It's not the greatest look right now. And like TJ said, what do you do without sports in the fall? What do you do without universities and schools traveling? I mean, you have to start planning for the worst and having that be a bonus. So that's really been our discussion lately, is how do you really plan for the worst? You know, a lot of these schools, and really, I think, Kristen, we have a group chat for NextGen, kind of shed some light on it in our group chat. This is really magnifying the fact that states are able to make the decisions for themselves and not on a federal level. Because you could have California or the Ivy League who canceled their fall sports already. That affects a whole region of the country's bus business, where now is the Midwest going to follow suit? You know, and TJ mentioned tour groups. You have a lot of these seniors don't want to be exposed to COVID, so they're not going to travel in these tour groups. So those tour companies are going to suffer. It's just going to be a trickle-down effect, and it's really tough to pinpoint what's going to provide relief for us other than actual government funding, but that'll only last for so long.
Right. And I think that's something, you know, that is, you know, people's lifeline right now is the funding, the support. And, you know, because I will say that coming from more of the black car side rather than the bus side, because I would say I'm more black car heavy, you do realize that the margins are not the greatest. And, you know, yes, you pay the bills and you take a good salary. Everybody's making money. But when something hits like this, you realize how bad or how minuscule your profit is, because you start burning through that pretty quickly. Where the bus companies, the margins are a little bit better. But the problem with that is you have higher costs to operate. So talking about the pandemic a little, we're all kind of in the same boat about it. But what did each company have decided to do when it comes to social distancing, cleaning the vehicles? I mean, we all do the same cleaning, but are you guys buying machines? Are you guys putting up, the barriers in your cars? What are you guys doing? TJ.
Yeah, we're using the electrostatic machines in the cars. The drivers also have some spray bottles. So in case that they did have to do something in between, they're wiping down the door handles, wiping down the seats, spraying the interior of the car. We're trying not to, at all costs, on the black car side especially, to send cars back to back if we don't have to. And for the most part, we've been able to mitigate that. On the buses, the electrostatic is huge because you're covering a larger area and going through and disinfecting that. As far as the barriers, we went against that just because of some of the research that's out there. And I know you and I have had this conversation that you had a family member personally that was injured due to one of those barriers. So I mean, that really played a big role in us of us not getting them. Is that it's something else that somebody can injure themselves with. It's something else that germs could attach to. It's something else that you'd have to clean if you're taking the proper precautions. And we also are providing hand sanitizer for clients and doing kind of the no contact meet. So they meet us out at the car unless otherwise specified to help with luggage. The driver has the trunk open and everything ready to go. So we're trying to limit all contact at all possible while our chauffeurs are following all the CDC guidelines to wear masks and gloves, etc., as needed.
What about you, Kev?
Yeah, I mean, much of the same. We do the electrostatic cleaning daily as well on the buses. We were doing a lot of work for the COVID nurses, transporting them back and forth from hotels to hospitals. So it was definitely a focus of ours to get those electrostatic sprayers and for the chauffeurs to wipe down the vehicle after every drop off. And really it's preparing your customers' expectations for that. Like TJ said, scheduling's changed quite a bit, so we don't have any back-to-backs. I mean, we give the chauffeurs plenty of time because, again, you're putting them in a situation where they're responsible for cleaning it in between trips. If they have enough time, we want them to come back to the shop and we'll electrostatically clean it again. But that was something we jumped on right away. It was just necessary for the work we were doing. But in terms of the small vehicles, same as TJ, we provide the PPE for the chauffeurs there to wipe down the vehicle every time. And we don't have any barriers either. Again, same reason, more area to clean, more harm than good, honestly. And we haven't had the chance yet to have multiple back-to-back trips on the small vehicle side. We have a handful a day, so nothing we can't manage. So it's been pretty seamless for the most part. But again, kind of back to your profit margin statement, customers are expecting us to add all these cleaning costs and associated fees there, but not expecting to pay more for it. And I think that needs to be a conversation as well for I'd say more the affiliate side than corporate, because I think corporate will end up understanding a lot of the colleges and universities expect higher rates from us because of all of that, and they're willing to pay for it to know they're safe. So it's really just kind of navigating the different clientele with their expectations.
Yeah, I think it's an important piece of conversation that needs to happen, especially on the affiliate side, because I heard through the grapevine there's a company that's demanding all their affiliates to have, the barriers, and that's the only way they're going to get their business. And we go back into, I know we're talking about buses, but this is another thing that it's a peeve of mine that an affiliate tells me what to do with my business and how to do it if I expect to get work from them. Where, prior to that, everything was perfectly fine. I think it's a joke and it's fucking ridiculous. And if anybody has a problem with me saying it, they could come knock on my door, because the fucking truth is that they don't pay my bill. If they're willing to give, if they're okay with me charging more, which we all know the answer to that one. Yeah. Most of these bigger companies are forcing people at certain prices, and there are some big companies that don't negotiate rates. It's your rate. They go for it. They pay your bill, and that's great. And you got to thank those kind of affiliates.
That's the minority.
Right. And there are only, a handful of companies like that. where the other larger companies are, this is the rate you're going to get paid, but we want this included. And we go back to this, TJ brought up my uncle. My uncle's Mark Summers, and if you don't know who Mark Summers is, right now he's on the Food Network. He has all these shows with Guy Fieri, but he was the host for Double Dare way back when we were younger.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So his real name is Mark Berkowitz, but he goes by Mark Summers. But he was involved in an accident. I want to say it was in Philly. I'm not 100% sure, but the taxi driver had to brake really hard, and he smashed his face in the plexiglass that was the barrier, and actually caused some pretty extensive surgeries. And when the decision was, when we were talking about it in our forums on Facebook, everybody said, well, we should do it because the CDC is okay with it. But I just always felt like, God forbid one of my passengers smashes their face. We tell all our clients that they know they got to wear their seatbelt. But there are a lot of the guys that are old school that are just like, I'm not wearing a seatbelt because it's more comfortable for me. Yeah. And the one time you have to brake and they smash their face, guess who gets sued? So I'm with you guys on that. Are you guys worried about social distancing in the, especially for schools? You have, let's say 40 or 50 players or maybe more, whatever it is. Usually they would fit in one bus. Has some of your schools or other clients have talked about, hey, we're going to need to use 2 bigger buses or 2 smaller buses because we want a social distance? Are you guys having those conversations with your schools and clients?
Yeah. They're already for and said, hey, we need to add an extra bus to social distance. You also got to have a plan in there along with those schools of what are you going to do should one of those players feel sick? What is the protocol going to be? So, people got to think that step further is if you're out over the road and somebody says, hey, I'm not feeling good, or, they think that they have it, or they're deemed that they can't play the game. You can't put them on the same bus, so you got to have a plan B on how we're going to get those people home. Can't put them on an airplane. So you got to have a plan A, B, and C in place. But that is something we're definitely seeing as far as people adding that extra vehicle. To Kev's comment earlier, dealing with some smaller schools, they might not have the budget to do that.
Yep.
So that's a big expenditure. So some teams in those smaller schools may not be taking as many people to travel. So you may have had a team that had 50 people before. That team might look like 30 now. So schools got to think this through, because everybody right now is they don't want to be the ones on the hook if somebody catches it, if a student gets it. And if you're looking across everything that's going on right now in athletics, the NBA has had a bubble. Look, they've had 2 or 3 people test positive. You got the MLB, they have certain bubbles. It's not if you get it, it's when somebody's going to get it, unfortunately. So it's going to happen. But, as long as you're taking the proper protocols and having these conversations with your clients and your athletic directors and such, then everybody can kind of understand that we're in agreement. You got to be able to work together.
Right. What are you seeing, Kev?
We've actually kind of taken a different approach in leaving it more up to the customer than having a set guideline on our end. We give them the capacity that we feel comfortable with social distancing. So for instance, on a motor coach, you can have up to 26 people with social distancing. We suggest that you don't have more than 26, but if they decide to have 30, that's really on them. The one sensitive piece to that is you're putting your chauffeur in a situation where there's no social distancing. So we need to kind of have that balancing act there. We haven't had the issue many times yet, but related to the budget comment with the smaller schools, back to what I mentioned about these Division I conferences only playing in conference. These small schools that play against Division I teams in their non-conference schedule rely on the money that those schools give them for their athletic budgets. So now that they're not playing these large D1 schools in their non-conference schedule, they're not going to be able to afford most of what's in their normal budget, not to mention extra vehicles. So that's why we kind of see this going down a negative path in terms of using bus service or even playing at all this fall, because they just can't afford
it. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely going to be interesting to see what happens with the progression of this. I kind of want to jump off topic a little bit. TJ, you made the comment that, if or when. Unfortunately, you had to experience it yourself. And do you mind just giving us a little bit of a story of that?
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it. So again, it's not if, it's when. For most of you that know me, I maintain a pretty healthy lifestyle, workout 4 to 5 times a week. Keep my immune system up. Very rarely go to the doctor except for a physical every year. Have been around, all types of environments, especially my law enforcement career, in and out of the hospitals, probably daily. So been exposed to quite a bit of stuff probably over my life, to where I would consider I'd have a pretty strong immune system, and been around multiple people since this started. And, my luck would have it, the good Irish luck that I have, probably on the Friday right before July, I had a friend that reached out to me and said, "Hey, why don't you come see me? I'm getting ready to head back." He works for the federal government, at a restaurant. And so we literally went and stopped and, spent probably 30 minutes with him and his fiance that they just got newly engaged. And probably the only person or people that I had been around outside of my bubble, as far as, close family and friends, for an extended period of time. And like I said, I've been around people, at the pool, at a beach, at cookouts. I've been around the same people. And it was the only time I was kind of in an environment to where it wasn't the same people. And so that was on a Friday night. On a Monday, I started showing symptoms, cough, a little bit of tightness in my chest. Later that night, a little bit of chills going on. And so I did what I would normally do, every 5 years when I don't feel good. I would throw on some sweat, try to sweat it out. Even went on a 4-mile walk that day, not feeling well, and went to bed and woke up the next morning and felt pretty good. Didn't have any of the symptoms or anything from the day before, and decided, hey, it's just seemed I had too many symptoms going on. Let me call my doctor. Probably should go get tested. Unbeknownst to me, you call your regular doctor and you have COVID symptoms, you can't go to your regular doctor's office. They won't see you there.
Correct.
And so they told me I needed to go to the hospital or find a urgent treatment care. And so I went in and got an appointment at 10 a.m. that morning, talked to the doc, told him everything going on. He said, hey, it just sounds like you got a little bit of bronchitis going on. Maybe you just sound a little bit raspy. He said, we're going to go ahead and COVID test you. I said, oh, okay. So if you would have asked me on that Monday that I had the symptoms, I said 100% I've got COVID. If you would have asked me anytime after that, I would have said absolutely don't have COVID. Unbeknownst to me, it took almost 4 days to get my results back. Thank goodness I stayed at home, didn't go out and about, didn't go to the grocery, stayed quarantined at home from the time that I went, felt bad, and except going to the doctor, but stayed quarantined. And I got the call on Friday morning that basically said, hey, your test came back positive. The crazy thing I'll tell you about this experience is I know 6 other people that got it from the same night. Everybody had different symptoms. Some people, one of the gentlemen even took a test on Tuesday and tested negative, and took a test on Saturday and tested positive. So that difference of 24 hours made a huge difference.
Right.
The biggest thing that I could tell anybody that, from this experience is, for me, knock on wood, it wasn't that bad. Some of the other people that got it, they had worse symptoms to where, they couldn't breathe. They were struggling. But the biggest, what I would say, issue that I've seen is there was no common ground that each of us got told from the health department. Everybody got told something different. I got told I had to quarantine 10 days for my symptoms. My wife got told that she had to quarantine 14 days, even though she had a negative COVID test and had no symptoms. So she had to quarantine longer than I did, the person with it.
Wow.
And for me, they only asked me to go back like 2 days, like 48 hours of who I'd been around, where other people, they asked to go back like 6 days of where they had been, who they had been with. So what I'm saying is there was no consistency there. And if it's taking 4 to 5 days, or even in some states, it's taking 14 days to get these test results back, you know, how can you really say that we're doing something right to beat this? And yes, everybody can wear a mask and all that. But at the end of the day, I mean, when you got it, you know you got it. And it was very simple to catch. And I've been around hundreds of people that have worn masks, that haven't worn masks. And I would have thought for sure that I would have had it, you know, prior to that, being around all these people. And it was just that one instant that I was around that one person, and boom. So
but you're healthy now, right? You feel good now?
I've felt fine ever since that day.
Oh, wow. Well, that's
yeah.
really interesting. And we have a driver who's unfortunately caught it. And he's in the hospital having a hard time breathing. He's not on a ventilator. He's getting better. They're pumping him with steroids, you know. There's been talk about, you know, steroids, CBD, that kind of stuff to help with the breathing. So that it's interesting to hear your experience. But we're all happy that you're feeling well. You know, both of you guys have families with kids, and, you know, obviously there's a little bit of scare with, you know, going to work and going to the office and interacting with somebody, and like you, TJ, didn't even realize, and then you come home and you have it. I mean, you know, what precautions are you guys taking at your office? Are your drivers coming to visit because they're bored? What kind of things are you guys limiting for your staff?
We've really made sure that the chauffeurs don't come in unless they have an order. A lot of these guys were, again, guys and women were used to coming in all the time, you know, so I think they're creatures of habit. So they were just, you know, we had to make sure they didn't come in. We installed the disinfectant dispensers in each of our vehicles, as well as 6 or 7 around our office. So, I mean, you see people all day just going at it. And again, we're trying to limit how many people are in the office at a time. So we're trying to coordinate schedules to make sure we're not all here at the same time. And especially, you know, for me, when I get home, I try to walk right in, wash my hands thoroughly every time before I do anything else. You know, when I can, take my clothes off, put a new change of clothes on, put those right in the wash right away. Just little things. I mean, I'm not going above and beyond by any means. But I'm definitely washing my hands, using the disinfectant a lot more than I used to.
Yeah.
But again, I haven't been around a whole lot of people. We're trying to allow the chauffeurs to take their vehicle home with them, so it doesn't come back to the office all that much unless they have an order. Then they have to come in and get it electrostatically sprayed. But they really don't have to leave that, you know, area of the vehicle. They don't come in the office. So we don't really allow them in the office anymore. So just little stuff, nothing crazy.
Yeah. What about you, Teach?
Yeah, when this first started, we immediately sent out a zip whip to all the chauffeurs. And this was March, probably 16th or 17th, very early on, and basically said that everybody's code had been removed from the office. So we have electronic codes to get in and access points all throughout the building. And we immediately deactivated all of those, basically based on, you know, the information that was being put out early on and what we were seeing, and basically said that they would receive a temporary code if they're assigned a job to access the building. They were cut off from all reservation staff at that point, to where they could only come in and basically pick up their iPad, sorry. So, I mean, I think we took steps early on and limited the public's access as well. You know, they had to call and basically make an appointment and then social distance from there. But we've cut off all contact with the reservationists, with the drivers, and the majority of us have worked from home. There's a couple reservationists that want to come in, that have come in, you know, every day since, and they wanted to. And, you know, I thank them for that. And, you know, it's kept the majority of everybody safe by taking those early precautions.
Yeah, I think that was a smart move. I mean, obviously for us, it's a little different. We run the 100% remote, and it actually is kind of a funny thing because in Vegas when we were at the show, I did that talk about having remote workers, and everybody was like, "You're crazy! You're crazy! You're crazy!" Here, 3.5, 4 months later, everybody's remote workers. Yeah, Sal,
you're a genius.
Yeah. Sal, I remember it was like, you can't run a company remote. You don't know what you're talking about. Blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, yeah, you can. So, and I've actually talked to a lot of people who are totally against it and are now like, you know what, I kind of like this. Why spend money on an office building when you don't really need it? And blah, blah, blah. And I said, you know what? It all really depends what you are doing. We don't do a lot of what's it called? Retail work. So people don't come to look at our vehicles. I don't know about you. I know you guys have some you have some party buses and stuff like that. We don't have that. Yeah. So we don't really have to worry about it. But when it comes to your fleet at this point, I mean, I'm assuming, Kevin, how many vehicles do you guys have?
So from Sprinter and up, we have 48. We're looking to sell if we can, a few. And again, I was talking to you a little bit about this earlier. It's a balancing act because you don't want to sell too many because what if things come back? But again, the market's going to have plenty of availability of buses when it does come back because people will be looking to sell them. But really the true test is figuring out that book value, sale price, payoff, figuring out all those numbers and making sure it works, that you're not putting yourself in a worse position down the road. And I think a lot, we've talked about numbers before in our group and even between us with buses. You have to really understand your numbers, and now is when that time is to shine for those people because those book losses can't be real high unless you want to really pay for it in the long run, especially with people that are going to be claiming losses this year as it is. It could help, but we have a couple buyers actually that are local, and they're usually in different verticals selling other types of vehicles, but they've expressed interest in buying some of the Sprinters and retrofitting them into RV, a lot like you're doing.
Yep.
And then you get small soccer teams and youth sports that are looking to purchase some of the 24-passenger buses, use them for themselves instead of, chartering it out. So although it does hurt us in the long run, it helps us now because you get some cash, pay down those loans, put yourselves in a better situation financially. I think now is really when that spotlight's on the companies that saved really well. And thankfully we were able to sell some of our MCIs earlier this year and get some good cash for them. And our equity sale in Orlando, when we sold off our partnership down there, we were able to save all that cash. And now that's what's getting us through this now, and even with deferrals, you still have fixed costs. I have to do a shout out to National Interstate. They've been a phenomenal partner on the insurance side, right, TJ? They're allowing us to take vehicles off and put them on for a day. So we have a big group here on July 20th. We need 10 of our buses, put them back on for a couple of days, pay the prorated amount, take them back off. So, I mean, that's been phenomenal for us. So, I mean, we're going to definitely downsize. Not sure how much we're going to downsize, but you need to right now. Everyone needs to.
Yeah, I think that's good. What about you, TJ? How many?
Yeah, so, well, between all three locations, we're probably around 100 or so. So between Lexington, Cincinnati, and Indy, give or take, we, along with Kevin, are thankful that we were probably in a better position than some companies based on our structure and the way that we started cutting costs before this ever happened. You always plan for a recession, but never a pandemic again. So, we're a pretty lean company to begin with. We have sold some vehicles. Like Kev said, we sold some of ours earlier this year. We sold a limo bus and another limo bus just recently. We've sold a couple of our older SUVs. And when I'm saying older, like 17s. Mm-hmm. But for us, we still have some bright things on the horizon. Derby, Derby got rescheduled. So next month, we're seeing still decent interest and we still have decent bookings. We're not going to be running 150 cars like we usually will. But, right now the books still look promising. We have Breeders' Cup here this year in November. So, we have a couple promising things if they happen. That's going to be huge for us. That's going to be huge. Do we have a plan, B, as far as offloading vehicles if we need to? Yes. But, we've put ourselves in a position that we feel to win, and we're going to see the other side of it regardless, because we put ourselves in that position early on. And again, kudos to National Interstate and all the vendors, that have helped not only our companies out, but any companies. Yep. And for those vendors that haven't helped out this industry, I sure hope people are taking notice and are not going to support them after this.
Yeah, I mean, we can sit on here and talk about who's not supporting the industry, because I don't mind putting anyone on blast.
No thanks.
I will say that, like your guys' insurance, Philadelphia has been really good for us. We've had to do the same thing, and though it was a little bit of a trial error kind of thing for them, because it's never anything they've ever had to deal with. They've been really good. So our rep there, who I got to give her big ups for taking care of us the same way. As we come to the end of this podcast, I kind of just want to know what you guys are feeling. I mean, I know I can speak for myself. Depression has kicked in pretty good over the last 3.5 months. And I know that, like, I'm on a roller coaster. Some days I'm like super hyped, and some days I'm just like, what the fuck did I get myself into? There's times that I feel sorry for myself, and times that I'm like, okay, we're going to fucking kill this thing. So I just want to give you guys a little bit of time to, kind of, express, and maybe some operators who listen to this may, relate and have, some kind of positive from what you guys got to say. So Kevin, go ahead first, bud.
Yeah, I think, I kind of relate to the roller coaster analogy. I think every day it's different. It's a feeling I've never had before. Again, I'm only in year 6 of owning a company. And I think it's a different level of pressure, especially when you have some family and friends, investors, also that work for you. And, again, when you have to lay people off who've done nothing wrong, that's a whole different level of stress and anxiety that never experienced before. So, when we come out of this, we're all going to be so much stronger, because if we can get through it as well as we can, we're going to be ready to go. I think that's what helps me on the rough days. I have the 2 kids, the 2 3-year-old, and a super supportive wife, Ashley, who's just been a rock star, making sure I'm always good and asking me how my days are going and prying it out of me, because I'll say, hey, it's fine. Just another day. No, like, what happened? What'd you do? And she's digging, because she knows that, like a lot of us, we just keep that in, and it's much healthier to talk about it. And, I'm fortunate to have great partners that it seems like we're on opposite roller coasters. So high days for me are low days for them. So I'm able to bring them up and vice versa. And I think, knowing that we can grind next to each other and get through what we have for the last 6 years gives us hope that, we're going to be just fine coming out of this. We've made some great decisions, like I mentioned, that'll keep us comfortable for a while here. And we just got to keep making smart decisions. And honestly, the slowdown has been great. The consequences of the slowdown is the problem I have. Yeah. I've been able to focus on family. I've been able to work from home here and there, enjoy a new home that I got, and really focus on, kids are the reason for living, and they're the reason that we're working as hard as we are, so that they have a life that's productive and strong. And I know we all share those values. And having the Next Gen group chat is great. Although I don't always talk, it's great seeing Mike Fridge on there, and
I love him.
People going at each other. It's hilarious to me, because it just shows how dysfunctional we are, but yet how tight we are.
Yeah, I mean, that's for sure.
Family feeling. Yeah. So that keeps me going too, because we're fighting for more than ourselves. And I think that's, I find that competitive nature in that piece, because we lost all the other competitiveness in our life. You can't go get business and sales. There's no sports to play. It's like we went cold turkey from what we were used to our whole life. So it's been a struggle, but it tests us. And if we can get through it, we'll be all good.
For sure. What about you, TJ?
Yeah, I mean, I would say my faith is, you all hear me say it all the time, I'm blessed to wake up. So, I mean, I stand by that every day. If I have a shot that I'm waking up, I've got a purpose. My family obviously is paramount. My wife, my kids, I mean, they give me gray hair. They make me laugh. We have ups and downs in life. Everybody does. Mm-hmm. But to piggyback what Kev said, I mean, I've taken it with a really good grain of salt to be able to step back. We've worked so hard all of our lives and, gone 110 miles an hour every single day, from one corporate client to, one job to one flight to, one trade show to, for me to have multiple businesses. I mean, you're going. Right. So for me to be able to step back, I've taken it as a positive, as far as, getting out and walking, enjoying the outside, spending a lot more time with the family, putting together puzzles with my wife. She's a professional puzzle putter together now, I guess. I'm not real sure.
Together. Together. It's a new title for her business card.
Yes.
Puzzle together.
Yeah, we spend a lot of time cooking, trying new recipes. My oldest son has taken up baking, during this. And so there's a lot of positives. And I think for anybody in our industry or other industries that would come on here and say, hey, it's been a walk in the park, be a complete lie.
I agree.
Having you all to lean on in the Next Gen group, and like you said, Fridge, and some of the open conversations that our group has had, throughout this climate, whether it's COVID or, the climate that's going on in the world, with diversity and everything else. I mean, we've had some really good, educated conversations. Not that we weren't all close before, but I would say that we're closer now than we were before. And, we all come from a diverse background and offer different insights from, Dave and I come from law enforcement to, other people in the group come from different walks of life. Yeah. And so it's been very good to have everybody have each other's back, to talk through one another's issues, to give people the encouragement that they need. Or you might not even know that you're giving somebody that encouragement, but just that simple hello in that group might be more than, they're getting all day. And people forget that, people have been at home for months and not everybody has somebody like us to lean on. So, reaching out to that, person that you're thinking about and just saying, hey, how are you? I've had multiple friends from different industries reach out from the get-go that knew we were hit hard, and but they know that we're fighters. They know that we're going to do whatever it takes to succeed, and we're going to be there. And, as long as we have each other, in our group and, have the support from family and friends, I mean, you can do anything you want. You're your weakest link. Your mind and you are your weakest link. Mm-hmm. If you can overcome that, then you can be successful at any walk of life. And then with people like each other behind each other that we have, I mean, sky's the limit still. We may have had to take a step back from, what we were doing, but it's like Kev said, we're going to come out better.
Yeah.
It might take time to show that, but we're going to come out leaner, stronger, and better in life.
100%.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's a really good point to end on. And I think one of the things that we probably need to just remind ourselves is that, this is new to everybody. This is not an individual mistake that caused your company to close down or, struggle or have this stress and depression. Prior to everybody getting on the call, Kevin and I were just kind of BSing about, trying to find something that's going to keep your mind right. And so whether it be exercising, whether it be, puzzle putting together, or something like that, whatever it takes, you got to focus on getting through this. And we have to. And I think, like you said, TJ, I'm blessed that I wake up every morning and I could put my feet on the floor and walk and do things. And so I thank you guys for your time. I hope you guys had a fun time. I love chatting with you guys. You guys are like brothers to me.
Oh, yeah. Love you guys.
So thanks again, Kevin. I appreciate it. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. All
right.
Thanks for watching, guys.